My name is John Clor, and if you haven't heard about me in the Mustang community, then you're probably not really tied together with the Mustang community much, because I've been doing this for a long time. I'm a Detroit kid. My dad was a Detroit cop, and my older brother was a Woodward street racer. So you can imagine the dynamic in my family, right? I worked 15 years at the Detroit News, and I tried to be an auto writer. And Bob Irvin, anybody remember Bob Irvin that was the auto writer there? He wouldn't retire. I think he was 115 when I left the news. I'm not sure how well. But I wound up going to Auto Week, and I'll show you my background. This is some of the Mustang stuff I've done. If you've seen me on the History Channel, I've done a lot of stuff for Ford on the History Channel. I was in the Hollywood movie called The Faster Horse. If you got Netflix, you got to see The Faster Horse, which is actually the movie version of my book, Mustang 2015, which is kind of a misnomer. That title was originally Mustang Confidential, how Ford makes a Mustang, and they changed it to that really glorious title. Mustang Dynasty, if you bought that book back in 07, you're happy to know your $39 went to about $200 on eBay now. They sold out, and it was a good investment. I also have that DVD done by Mad Men. Anybody see Mad Men, the video? I write a monthly column. I've passed 250 columns now for Mustang Times. I've written for several of those magazines. But my job really is at Ford right now, and this is what I've done. So I started at the news, went to Auto Week, left Auto Week with some, which I know is crazy. You don't want to ever leave an auto writing job, but I went to Ford SVT, a special vehicle team, and then I went back into the web world for about a year and a half as Detroit editor of Edmunds.com. And I came back into Ford Racing, and now I'm up at Ford Performance. My official title is the Enthusiast Outreach Manager or Enthusiast Communications Manager, and no other car company has one. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, that's me in my David Letterman days when I was thinner. And but in other words, this isn't my first rodeo, but that's your first rodeo. If you're a Ford person, I'm going to ask you a basic question. What is the quintessential hot rod? Anybody have an idea? 32 Ford. No one said Toyota, right? That's not a Corolla. And when you think of coming back after World War II, all the Model A's are in the back 40 of everybody's property. And you know, the GIs could fix a Jeep with a rubber band and a paper clip, and they were very innovative. They get back after the war, and they went up to the back 40, got those old Fords. Why? Because it had a flathead V8 in it, and Ford kind of changed the world. And let's go back. If you talk about the Model T, yeah, we put the whole world on wheels. But it was the Model A that sold through. And that he put a V8 in. That changed the way we feel about cars. You know why? Because that Model A had a V8 and it gave us torque. And that torque, that horsepower, is what we craved as Americans. It changed us. If you go to the Greenfield Village Museum, you'll see a letter from Bonnie Clyde saying thanks a lot for outrunning all the police cars because nobody had a V8. And they thanked Ford for having the fastest car in the planet. But it all started with this. And it's because we love the sensation of power and speed. We love to be sporty. That's why we slammed them down, we chopped them, we channeled them, we personalized them. We made them ours. And that's really the beginning of the hot rod era. And it's Ford. When you think about hot rods, you think about a Ford. We started it all. Now, we weren't the first sports car, quote unquote sports car in the US. It was the Corvette. Came out in 1953. But if you bought a 53 Corvette, you'd know it was a fiberglass car, kind of cool, but it had that blue flame 6. That didn't set your heart. Ford wanted to respond, so when we came out with our little two-seat baby, we came out with a Thunderbird. But the Thunderbird was not a sports car. I'll be honest with you. I've driven those early birds. Those are great cars, but they're not hot rods. You know, they were grand tours. They were very luxurious. They're fun. They're beautiful. In fact, the USA Today poll recently said that the most beautiful American car ever designed was the 57 Thunderbird. So we're still in love with Suzanne Summers' car from that movie, American Mary. Yeah. So our response was not as a sports car. And, you know, thank goodness, because by the time Thunderbird went to a 4-seater, the sales went up into hundreds of thousands, and Corvette stayed as a niche product, which it is still today. So then we started taking our cars and we started racing them. And so it was bad enough that we raced on the streets, but some of us down south would take the back seat out, the spare tire out, and then go out on the sand in Daytona and race. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the beginning of NASCAR. That was when those were stock cars that we actually raced. And the idea about racing was, if you win on Sunday, then you
Sell on Monday, right? And the idea was that they saw you on TV, and they saw that car was so fast that, man, if a car company can build a car like that, that's the car I want to buy, because look how they beat it up for 500 miles. And that's what really made the sales idea of why performance sells. Now, back in that era, you think about, well, you got out of the 50s, all that chrome and all that luxury, and we wanted power. So by the time we got into the late 50s, early 60s, we wanted big engines, big blocks they called them. Remember She's Real Fine, my 409? And then Pontiac had the 421 Super Chief. Ford did have a 390 and a 428 Police Interceptor engine. I mean, so everybody wanted big, big power in their cars. And the Impalas, those were the cars to buy. But guess what? That was a big car to move around. So what really the idea was, why don't you take that big block and stick it in a mid-sized car? And that wasn't a Ford idea either. John DeLorean actually came up with that. They put it in a mid-sized Pontiac Tempest. They called it a GTO. Anyone know what GTO is? Gran Turismo Homologado, which meant the Grand Touring, to homologate a Grand Touring car in racing, you had to build so many of them, and that was their idea of GTO. And let me tell you, if you were around back then, my brother was up Woodward when these things came out, they were very fast and scary cars, but very successful. This really began the muscle car wars. Well, other people had sportier, smaller cars. When Lee Iacocca, who just passed away, and we had his funeral here in the Detroit area, he became president of the Ford division. So he goes to his daughter, honey, I'm president of Ford. You can have any car you want. What would you like? She said, nothing, Daddy. You want nothing? No, none of you, all the cars are boring. I don't want anything. Well, light bulbs went off. And his product planner, Hal Sperling, was immediately set about, we've got to come back and get some youth into this lineup. Safety doesn't sell. We need something sporty, something cool. My daughter doesn't want a Ford. So we had some smaller cars. Remember the Chevy Corvair? Ralph Nader did. It was actually a great little car. Engine in the back, a lot of fun, unique. And that was one of Lee Iacocca's scariest things, because young people really loved that car. It was so different. It didn't look like grandmother's car. Now, I love my grandmother. I wouldn't mind driving her car. Sometimes it smelled a little different. But I can tell you that there was some reason young people wanted to disassociate themselves from their parents and their grandparents in the 60s. Now, Pontiac, there's the Tempest. That was a little sporty car, small car. And Ford had the Falcon. Mr. McNamara, one of the biggest bean counters Ford ever had, was later stolen by President Kennedy to be in his cabinet. It was his idea. Safe, economical, six-cylinder, nice little car. You know what? And it sold well. But it didn't set the world on fire. Is anybody's heart beating rapidly by looking at those cars? No. So what happened? Well,
The idea has come out with something crazy, something like this.
The original Mustang, the advent of the pony car. There was no such thing as a pony car. The pony car was actually coming out a couple of weeks after the first such pony car, which was the Plymouth Barracuda. Now, if that was first, why don't we call it the fish car?
Yeah.
Right? We were second with the pony car. But the entire segment was named after Mustang, in deference to Mustang, because what happened was, when this car came out, if I turn that picture around, the front end looked just like Granny's Valiant. It had a fastback, bucket seats, V8 stick shift, but the front end looked like Valiant. That Mustang looked nothing like the Falcon that it was based upon. Absolutely. In fact, it looked a little like a Ferrari. It had a protruding grille and setback headlamps. It had this wild sea scallop on the side. And Hal Sperling, when I interviewed him for my second book, he told me about this ad. It actually said, presenting the unexpected. It was $23.68 was the price. It had to be under 2,500 pounds. It had to be under 2,500 bucks. And they wanted something so wild. He said, the three pieces of marketing in 1964 for this was a beautiful woman. Man, if I had that car, I could get that girl. A beautiful car? Wow, look at that. It looks like nothing else on the road. And a beautiful price. $23.68, I can afford it. And that was the secret to Mustang. When it came out, nothing else like it. Everybody scrambled to try to compete. Now, the Chevy Camaro came out shortly afterwards, after Mustang already sold 1 million cars. Camaro hit the market. And Chevy Camaro's been a formidable foe. And let's face it, In fact, when I first met my wife, Jenny, she had a Chevy Camaro. I'm driving a 67 Fastback, yeah, 289, and I looked at over next door, and there's my wife, what to be, my girlfriend. I said, "Is that your car?" And she goes, "Oh yeah." I go, "What's it got in it?" It was like baby diaper gold. What color was that? Yeah, it was brownie color and dogfish hubcaps. It was terrible. So I thought, "Hey, you want to race?" She said, "What?" I said, "What do you got in that thing?" I figured a 307 two-barrel. The thing was cheap, nothing car. So I figured I'd take her on. So the light turns green and we took off. And I'll tell you what, she beat me. So we pull up to the next light. Nobody was in front of us. And I said, "Hey, was that a 307? And she said, "I don't know." You don't know. You don't know what kind of engine you have in your Camaro? I said, "Listen, here's what we're going to do. When the light turns green this time, go out to 20 miles an hour and then hit it. We're going to take it from a 20 roll." I'm thinking, if I get the RPM up on the 289, I'll get her. So light turns green, we roll out slowly to about 20 miles an hour. Bam, we hit it. And this time, she beat me again. So I married her and sold the Camaro. True story. A 354 barrel was under the hood of that Camaro. So that taught me a little lesson about what Ford had to do to compete in the muscle car wars. We did, though, change the world with this car. It was on every news channel that night when it hit. It was introduced at the New York World's Fair instead of in the fall, and all the other cars were out. Everybody had one. Everybody who was cool had one. It's like kind of like the Tesla that say, "I have one of these to be cool," right?
Didn't they run a Mustang commercial during the Beatles appearance?
That was the most genius thing of all, and they actually ran them on all three networks. So the idea of marketing this car was another piece of genius. The car itself was a piece of genius, and it was the right car. And we came out with a coupe and a convertible, and after we really changed everybody's mind about how cool it is to drive America's car, we came out with that. When Iacocca went downstairs into the design center, I happen to know Mr. Haldeman, who designed this car, is still around. If you ever get a chance to go down to Dayton, Ohio area, it's called the Haldeman Bar Museum. He's still there. He shows people his drawings. He's the guy, a 26-year-old kid out of the Dayton Art School, drew this car and became famous. When he did this fastback with Joe Horrells, who did a lot of Mercuries and a lot of other Fords, Lee didn't even know about this car. And when he came down, they took it outside in the courtyard behind the Product Development Center, pulled the cover off, and said, "Lee, what do you think of that?" He just looked at it, he stared at it, twirled a cigar, and said, "Gotta build that." There was no money in the program. I don't know if you know the history of Mustang, but the last thing Ford wanted was another car in 1964. In 1960, we killed the Edsel. And if you went to, and they went to Henry Ford II and said, "Hey, we want to do this new car." No. No new cars. Done with the new car thing. The Edsel was a delight. No. And by the way, every car in 1965, every Ford car was brand new, all redesigned. There's no money. The answer is no. So we went back downstairs and they said with his team, guys, they said, "No, let's not quit on it." So we went back up about 3 or 4 weeks later after they got the engines and they got clay done. And they went and said, "Mr. Ford, this idea of us sporting a special Falcon," and he goes, "No." The answer is no. Not building it, get rid of it, stop work on it immediately. So they took the clay and they pushed it into the International Studio, which Mr. Ford never visited. And then they started meeting out of World Headquarters at a little hotel, a Fairlane Motel, down on Military and Michigan Avenue. Today, if you go down there, Ford's Garage restaurant is right across the street. And where that grass is where those meetings took place. Now, Sperling told me, Iacocca went there so he could order beer and get steaks. Can't do that. Can't do that at World Headquarters. But they hammered it out. And the coolest story is about getting this Mustang to build was, I think they lied. And for years as a journalist, I have asked Ford retirees, "Did you really tell Mr. Ford the truth?" Because Ford refused to give you the money until you had the data that proved this Mustang would sell. I need the data. It's all about the data. So apparently, I asked Mr. Sperling finally just a few years ago, "Hal, what was the real story?" Every time I ask a retiree, they say no comment. You know what no comment means to you? What does it mean to you? They're hiding something, right? So I said, "Tell me what happened." He goes, "All I can tell you is Iacocca came in and he said to the team, Ford rejected it for the third time. We're done unless we have data that proves this car will sell at least 100,000 in the first year. And he looked at his J. Walter Thompson ad agency guy and he said, I'm going to need some data. I need data that shows that, I mean, the demographic stuff's great. People are coming to the market. Women are getting jobs. People want more than one car in the family now. But I need data to show that this car will sell. And the JWT guy said, Mr. Ikoka, when do you need it? He said, Tuesday. Well, then he said, Tuesday? I can't get a focus group done by Tuesday. And Ikoka said, did I ask you for a focus group? He said, well, no, but I can't get a survey. He said, I asked you for a survey. I said I need some data, some numbers to show Mr. Ford. And he said, well, I don't know if we could just join you to new agency. He said that to J. Walter Thompson? So guess what? That Tuesday, Mr. Spurlick got a call to meet Ikoka and Don Fry, the chief engineer, at Mr. Ford's office at 10:30 in the morning. They walked up to the ninth floor, and there is a manila folder with some numbers in it. According to Spurlick, they walked in, Ikoka's rolling a cigar, he walks up to Mr. Ford's desk. Here's your data on the Special Falcon project. And so Mr. Ford opens it up, and he starts looking through the numbers. Hal said, he's sweating. He's taking too long looking at these numbers. No one looks at numbers that long. And he's thinking, oh my God, we're toast. This is over. Didn't say anything. Finally, while Spurlick's sweating, Ikoka keeps twirling the cigar. It's going to be a hit. Tell him it's going to be a hit. Guess what? Ford threw that envelope back down. He said, okay, I'll give you your damn money, but this thing better sell. It's your jobs. So what did Ikoka do? He grabbed those numbers back off the desk and he walked out. He closes the door behind him and he said to Don Fry and Spurlick, did you hear what he said? He said, it's your job. That's Lee Ikoka. So right after that, Mr. Ikoka realized the muscle car war is going. Ford doesn't have a muscle car. It's got that little 289. And what are we going to do? Oh, well, Jacques Passano and racing car. We'll get into racing in a couple years. Couple years? No, I need to win right now. What do you mean right now? I mean right now. So what do? They called Carroll Shell. Carroll was that crazy chicken farmer from Texas. They came up to Detroit and wanted some small block engines to put in a British sports car to go racing in World Championship racing. And when Bunky Knudsen threw him out of General Motors thinking he's just going to amount to nothing, he walked over to Ford. And Jack Passano introduced him to Ikoka and Hal Spurlick. He said, I'd like you to introduce this guy. And he had his overalls on. And Ikoka goes, what do you do? Because I race a little British sports car, but it needs American V8 power, and I want some of your V8 engines. He goes, what are you going to do with them? He said, I'm going to beat Corvettes. And Ford said, how many engines do you want? There's the difference between this family-owned company, there's the marriage now between Shelby and Ford. Well, shortly after that, his little Copers did win the championship, and then we knew he was the right guy to take this Mustang, a secretary's car as he called it, and make a sports car out of it. Guess what? By the time he got these freshly built Mustangs into his shop in California and transformed them into Shelby GT350s, they went racing in SCCA and Sedan B, won the championship. Now they had 2 years in a row. I mean, Shelby, now, he got a little help from the Falcons that were raced by Holden and Moody, and he understood that he got a head start. But that car became a champion in 1965. The car's fresh out. And by the way, also paced the Indianapolis 500, all marked. Bill Ford once said, look at this red Mustang convertible. He once said that there's nothing greater than driving in a red Mustang convertible with the top down and your hair in the wind, if you still have hair. And there's just a no greater feeling than that. Then hear that V8 going up through the gears. And this is the quintessential car. Now, I know we see it everywhere. It's been used in movies, it's in commercials, it was everywhere. It's all part of our life now. But that car, that picture is etched in everybody's mind across the world. Then what happened? Well, it wasn't enough. We needed bigger. We needed to get bigger. We needed to make the car bigger and exaggerate its styling features because we had to have a big block. So the 390, a little truck motor we had, that got stuffed into the Mustang, and a bigger, more beautiful sculpted car, even got more aggressive looking. And this car, did it do well? No. Bob Taska, who owned a dealership in Providence, Rhode Island, was selling hot rod Mustangs and giving them to kids, and kids would come back and get hot rod parts there. And he said, I got these 390 Mustang GTs in, and guess what? The kids would come back with the brand new cars. I want my money back. Why? I just went out there and a Chevelle just handed it to me, 396. And he's thinking, well, what? So he knew some Ford racing parts. So he cobbled together a police interceptor with some Ford racing parts. And he could make that 390 based FE engine sing. It was a very bold move, but guess what? He gave it to the media because he knew he put it out to Mr. Ford and they turned it down. I'm going to get a hot rod engine. This is fine. You got your big block, go away. Well, guess what? You, enthusiasts, people who love Mustang, began a letter writing campaign. Build that car. Build that engine. And the Cobra Jet engine was born on April 1st, 1968. Immediately went into some Mustangs that went up to drag racing winter nationals and won, 9 of those cars placed. That's what turned Mustang into a real muscle car. It was when we got the big block, and I say when we got the 428, we were serious. Mr. Shelby didn't want the 390. He called that engine a boat anchor. Shelby didn't mince words. He didn't want to build his GT500, the big block car, until he had 428s. So all your Shelby GT500s will have that big 428 police interceptor motor. And these cars are coveted by collectors. You could pay $250,000 for a Mustang. Makes you feel good. Now what happened was Mr. Icoca was really running the show, and Mr. Ford was feeling it, thinking this guy's he's like a wild cannon. I can't control him. He's on every newspaper. He's on all the TVs. It's like Ford doesn't work here. Iacocca does. So he had it with Lee about up to here. So he brought in one of Lee's competitors, Bunky Nuts, from General Motors, who ran with Pontiac for a while. The guy who didn't like Shelby. He brings him in to make him president of Ford division, and pushes Iacocca aside. So Lee, very upset, but had a great following. So he didn't like the bigger Mustangs. And he certainly didn't want anybody messing with the Mustang. That was his baby. But Bunky did. As you notice, the noses got bigger. The Mach 1 was a huge sales success. But Bunky had a designer named Larry Shinoda that he brought into Ford and said, make me a car like a Shelby, because I don't like that Shelby stuff. Make me one. So he worked for his new boss. And he's made this, I'm going to design something cool and I'll put it together. And they said, what are you working on? He said, the boss's car. That's the boss. And that's how that car got its name. You think because you saw laughing when they said the word boss, it was because Larry Shinoda, that was the boss's car. And then we made the Boss Mustang. Now we raced that Boss, again in Trans Am, and Parnelli Jones won, and we were actually having Shelby teams as well. That's when Carroll wanted to get away from Ford. In fact, his 1970 GT500 was his last. These cars were actually rebadged 1969 versions, which today you can't do, because the FBI won't let you mess with VIN numbers. But back then, that's the last of the Carroll wanted out. They took the Shelby in-house, because he said we didn't like his fiberglass. We gave you rim bone and horn wheels and shag carpeting and AC. He said, my car's not a luxury car, it's a sports car. He wanted out. So that was the last of the Shelbys for quite some time. But we didn't stop. Bunky got his way, but made the cars bigger. We made them grande. Kind of like what you order when you go to Starbucks. You want a grande. So these Mustangs were super big, but the problem was we had new emission control laws, and they started to choke these engines down. A 351 engine barely made 200 horsepower. And in this gigantic car, we actually had some of the Landau roofs. We still tried to make a Boss Mustang out of one. If you've ever driven a Boss 351, they're very fast, and they're rarest of all. They're really cool cars. But that was pretty much the end of it, because emission controls just choked the heck out of V8s, and everybody at this time started to see the end of the muscle car era. Guess what? Forget $4 a gallon or $3 a gallon. You couldn't buy gas pretty soon, a couple years from here. You couldn't get it for any price. And so it became socially irresponsible to drive one of these hot rod Mustangs. And Ford even got out of racing. Why are you driving around in circles wasting gas? That's terrible. In fact, you were frowned upon if you had a hot car. You should buy Pintos and Vegas and Gremlins, oh my. We bought little Volkswagen Beetles, everybody had to have a Beetle. Why? Because that was the cool thing to do. So these cars were gone. So what happened? Well, this car, the sales fell so poorly, Bunky was gone. And guess what? Iacocca got back to the driver's seat. So he said, I'm going to fix everything. I'm going to fix this. But how do you fix it? Performance isn't going to sell. What's going to sell? Farrah Fawcett Majors. Now come on, guys. Ladies, I'm not sure if you're with that person tonight, they'll admit they had the poster, but they had the poster. It might have been in the garage. They saw Thursday night, 61 million people watched Charlie's Angels. Ford was selling a Mustang too, a downsized little Mustang. For its first year, it only had a 4-cylinder. You can get 30 miles per gallon. In a Mustang? Because it had that set back headlamp, a protruding grille, the little C-stripe in the side, it looked like a Mustang. It was cool. It was fun. It was well built. Rack and pinion steering for the first time, front disc brakes, all those things, but it didn't go fast. Well, once they put Farrah Fawcett Majors in the Cobra 2, 26,000 orders came in. That little Cobra 2 had to be taken inside Ford to complete the orders because it was so overwhelming, the conversion company. And we had the Mach 1, we even had a King Cobra. Forget about, you know, the movies you may have seen that had Burt Reynolds in it and Sally Field, because that big screaming chicken on the Pontiac Trans Am had nothing on our big snake on the King Cobra, a one-year-old car. But that all went away real fast because we got gasoline back and people started wanting something different. They didn't want anything American anymore. We wanted European stuff. Remember the Euro Lumina? Remember everything was Euro? Oldsmobile had a Euro version. So Mr. Ford pretty much had it with Iacocca, even though this Mustang 2 sold 400,000, 380,000 in its first year again. Nothing that big since the original Mustang. So Iacocca again had that magic. But guess what? Its time was over. And Jack Telnack, a designer that had been at Ford and gone to Australia, been to Europe, came back, he drew an all different kind of Mustang. So Iacocca had Halderman and his gang do a 79 Mustang for the next generation. And he had Telnack do another Mustang. And Mr. Ford went down there and said, these look like Iacocca Mustangs. What are those? Those are Telnack Mustangs. And Jack walked him around, I think they should be cleaner. Flat side, so guess what? He picked Telnack Mustangs and he fired the Iacocca in 1978. And this was what we got, the Fox body Mustang. Didn't have all those styling cues. First we had 4 headlights and then went back to 2. We didn't have all that was more slab-sided, wedge-shaped wind sheeting. But it took a while before engineering could catch up to horsepower. It's like, you know, if you could legislate things, oh, you can legislate anything you want, right? Legislate, from now on you got to get 70 miles per gallon. I need a 100 mile per gallon carburetor. Well, if you could legislate stuff like that, it was that easy. Why don't we legislate the cure to cancer? That would be great. It doesn't work that way. You have to engineer it. So we slowly got back into the performance game. The 5.0, the Boss is back, not a Boss model, but with some horsepower on the 82 GT. We even came out with a turbocharged 4-cylinder Mustang. That'll never happen again. With the SVO Mustang. What happened to the SVO, the Special Vehicle Operations car? Well, here's what happened. They put that car in the showroom right next to the Mustang GT V8, right? And it's an expensive little car with turbos and wings and big brakes and better tires. And the guy who sold you that car, he had lime green pants and a white belt. Never buy a car from anybody with lime green pants and a white belt. He didn't know anything about that car. The dealer has to know how to sell that car. They didn't. The car they thought would sell 10,000 a year, didn't sell 10,000 in its entire run for 2.5 years. It went out of business. But we finally decontented the car. We were going to kill the car. We thought everybody wanted a front-wheel drive sport coupe. We took a Mazda and put a running pony on it, thinking that's what you wanted, and then when you did it again. You sent letters to world headquarters, and you said bad things about Mrs. Ford. What is wrong with you? You can't make a Japanese front-wheel drive car and call it a Mustang. Ford, are you all right? So Bob Rui, the head of marketing, said, we're not going to call it something else. We called it the Ford Pro. I know that sounds like a doctor's instrument, but I'm just saying, back then it was a space name from a lot of our space satellites. And thankfully Mustang settled it on, but we were challenged. Either kill it, make it go away, or figure out something new. And as the exclamation point to 15 years of the Fox body, special vehicle team came out with a Cobra, basically a hot rodded Fox body for 1993. But we did it. John Coletti, Dombrowski, and Bud McGaldy, they all went off to a little building off the Southfield Freeway in Old Montgomery Ward's warehouse. They said, you're either going to save it or it's gone. Well, they came up with this. This car was a 94, fourth generation, kind of a modified Fox body chassis, but look what happened. We went back to those same little cues. Oops, what did I do? See those same little cues here? That, remember that on the original car?
Yeah.
Remember the setback headlamps? See these little setback headlamps, protruding grill?
Yeah.
But we made a mistake in 94. We had horizontal taillights. And you wrote in again. You can't draw a Mustang with horizontal taillights. It took us 2 years to get the vertical lights back in the car. And we made some special models. We made the 2001 Bullet. That was really a cool car. I don't know who's driving that. One of you people, I think. That's against the law, by the way. And then we came out with a Mach 1 again, shaper hood, just like in the 70s. And then SVT decided to really up the ante by supercharging a V8, putting it in that car, and it changed the way we feel now about power adders. Getting a supercharged Mustang changed the way we drive cars, and the power, it was instantaneous. We again got intoxicated with horsepower. Well, that lasted just a little bit while, and we thought, well, what can we do? We get to 2014, or 2003, it's all over. By the time we were going to move out of Dearborn Assembly, the plant was so old, they had bolts in there from Model Ts. They made U-boat fire boats for the government in that plant. You couldn't get good paint. You moved things up and down stairwells and up and down floors. The plant was too old. We needed something new. We had that Mazda plant we were going to build the Mustang out of in Flat Rock. Let's move it out there. Let's come up with an all-new car. What do? Well, how about something like a Mustang? When you look at this car, setback, again, headlamps, protruding grille, look at the side scoop, the taillights. This car, when it was put in California, people said, oh my God, there's the new Mustang. It had no badges on it. How did they know that was a new Mustang? Because you know why? Close your eyes and open them back up. That looks like a Mustang. It's close your eyes and think what a Coke bottle looks like. It's a Coke bottle. You can put any name on it, you can take the name off of it. That shape is so iconic now. I'm going to tell you, if you bought that car and you couldn't get a date, you have problems that Ford Motor Company can't solve. You need Dr. Phil. Because look at that thing. That is pure awesome. And of course, we did the convertible like we did the other cars, and we came up with another California special like we did. Oh, there's another Bullet. Who's driving those Bullets? This is totally and 100% illegal. You can't do that. Not with you, John. It was. That's wrong. But anyway, so when you say, and guess what? In 2005, when the new body style came out, I remember the media saying, "Oh, Ford, what did they make for the Mustang? They made a Mustang." They haven't had an original idea. It's the same old thing. But let me tell you something. 1967 and 68, this car's pattern after was a long ways away. But we know what was in people's minds. And the same year, the Porsche 911 was redesigned. What did it look like? The Porsche 911. Did anybody say, oh, Porsche doesn't have an original? No, because the Porsche 911 is so iconic, like Mustang, its shape is well known, right? Same thing. So, what did we do? Well, we drove that car for a while, we all bought it, we loved it, but then we had to change it. For 2010, we kind of made it look a little bit more global, as they call it. And then, of course, we had to come up with another California special. And then the very next year, after we got you to buy the new body, we changed all the engines and gave you more power. So now I got to trade it in, and I got to get with the new motor. That Ford. How terrible are these people? But think about this. I mean, in a 5-liter naturally aspirated car, even our six-cylinder had 300 horsepower, and it got 31 miles per gallon. That's having your cake and eating it too. And of course, the Shelby GT500, oh my, again, supercharging made all the difference. People want 500. How many people need 500 horsepower? See? They're all very ill. Anyway, so bottom line is, we had to bring back some other names, because once we got a 5-liter back in the car, we got a 302. And if you have a 302 cubic inch engine, you can bring the Boss 302 back. So for 2012 and 2013, we brought these cars back, and man, were they well received. I don't know if you've ever driven one of these new Bosses, but they're phenomenal. In fact, the best story I have about the Boss, I was supposed to write the Boss book and was on the team. We called our team the Maverick Committee. Why do we call it the Maverick Committee? Because we figured, we're not going to make another Maverick, are we? If the word got out, no, we were actually working on the Boss. And one of the guys on there is a guy named Mike Berard, who was a director of field service ops, and big Mustang collector, and he went down to look at the 2012 Boss, and we're looking at the clays, and there was a 2013, because he changed the stripes, we went from the C-stripe hockey sticks, and he goes, what color is that? And they said, well, that's electric green metallic. He goes, when is that? Is that going to be for 2012? They go, no, it's 2013. He goes, no, I gotta have that, I gotta have it now. He said, no, you have to wait, that's a 2013 color. He goes, no, gotta have it, I gotta have it. They changed the name of that color to gotta have it green. That's a true story, look it up. So in 2014, 50 years after the Mustang 65 Mustang came out in 1964, we turned 50. And man, did we throw a birthday party turning 50. All those years of Mustangs. That new Mustang for 2014, 420 horsepower. That's just insane. It was nothing like we did in the muscle car era, had anything like that. So we thought, 50 years, you guys pretty much have it all, right? We're done. Thanks, folks, for listening to about Mustang. No, we're not. Because right after that, we had to make an all-new Mustang again. It was time, another 10 years went by, and we wanted to do something different. We wanted, this time we're gonna go global. We're gonna export this car legally, not in the black market like we did for 50 years. We're gonna send it into 46 different markets legally. And we want to do something, oh my gosh, look at that. We have, again, vertical tail lamps. And as we shaped this car and formed this car, some of you said, oh, it looks like a Fusion. But guess what? You started to love it. And you understood the power of that front end, of that protruding grille and the setback headlamp. The same kind of cues that made you crazy in 1964 happened again. And this car, for the sixth generation, was a smash hit. Of course, exporting it changed everything. Drawing this car and making it ours, making it special, it gave you all those little things, all the little touch points that made us, but yet at the same time, if you've driven a new Mustang, it's so modern, it's so well screwed together. We never made a better Mustang. And then we had to give you something else. Of course, we had to come out with we actually did a small run in 2015, but in 2016, when you could actually buy a Shelby GT350, we put in an engine called a flat plane crank, which was not, the centrifugal weights were not counterweighted, it was a flat plane. But guess what, that meant it can rev like crazy. If you've ever heard one of these cars, the little hairs on your arm stand up when it goes by, it's like, it makes this beautiful music. And if you want an R model, that means a race model, just to go tracking it, we offered that for sale too. These were kind of unobtainium. We thought we were going to run them for a year or two. We did it again. And of course, we had to come out with a California Special. People don't know the California Special was first coming out because Shelby had extra parts. California people liked the look of the Shelby, couldn't afford them, so why not make a special Mustang? Mustang has had more special editions than just about any car in the world. And if you go out, there's books on special editions. Very cool. Then what happens? We had to make another Bullet. Who is driving that Bullet? That is just so wrong, isn't it? I mean, so in 2018, we again launched the Bullet. And I have a unique story I want to share with you about this car. We all remember the Steve McQueen movie. Everybody remember that chase scene? Oh, thank God you saw it. Did you know that the Charger lost 7 hubcaps?
I have.
How was that possible?
Yeah.
The continuity of the movie. So when you were at the auto show, anybody go to the auto show? And you saw the original Bullet Mustang right next to the brand new Bullet for 2018? Guess what? That was a very special moment. A brand new marketing girl came up to me, I think it was out of Harvard. She said, Mr. Clor, you're supposed to be one of these Mustang guys? Oh yeah. She said, can you tell me something? Why don't we put that old rusty car next to our new Bullet?
They don't have car people do that.
I said, without that, there wouldn't be that. That's the Steve McQueen car. Now, a lot of you may not know this, but I had a rolling bullet. Oh, okay, well, maybe, all right, maybe I was. Well, during the movie, I think I was speaking, and during the chase scene. No, okay, I wasn't speaking, all right. But I was able to see the bullet in 2016, and I begged Sean Kernan, do not come out with this car, don't tell the world about it. Because in 2018, if you wait 2 years, we're gonna come out with a bullet, and you could do this together, you'll never get that kind of press. So he listened, and I got to sit in the same seat that Steve McQueen sat in. And if you look at my face, I look like a 3-year-old child that just got a lollipop. What is wrong with us when we get that excited about an old Mustang? Because that's the Steve McQueen Mustang. Anybody would feel the same way. And that's what made that very special.
Except the girl from Harvard.
Yeah. Very smart. I think she was third in the class.
Blue bloods.
That doesn't really speak well for Harvard.
So now how do we top all this wonderful stuff we've given you these last couple of years? Well, you've heard about it. Coming out this summer, probably next month too. I've seen a couple in there run on the streets already. 760 horsepower in the Shelby GT500.
Full truck limited.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's just crazy. A lot of people say, well, the Demon and the Challenger and the Hellcat and the... I said, guess what? A lot of their drag cars are wrapped around trees. The reason why when we sell a Cobra Jet, we don't put a VIN in it, it's for the drag strip. This car actually can be driven on the street. And you better go to school before you drive it, because we do offer the racing school. So our story has come 55 years to this insane point. You'd think we couldn't possibly get any crazier. So when you think of the Mustang, 60 years ago, if I said to you, Mustang, what do you think of? You said, well, horse. But now, you walk out of here tonight, you ask anybody, you say the word Mustang, what are they going to say? It's a Ford. Because that idea of freedom and the idea of power and the whole thing that Mustang conveys, an American car, it's all about us. And it's nothing more American than a Mustang. And so these are the images we still have in our mind, but how can we carry that forward in an age where Uber drivers are picking us up and people want a car that drives itself? And what happens? What happens to all this legend? Could we make something just crazy looking, just different? And I remember when this car came out right here, the designers are really good friends with Rob Gilardi, who works in Lincoln right now. He loved this, and he put it up on the screen, and the marketing guy goes, that's a Kardashian car. This car was supposed to be what the Mustang was going to be in 2015, called the Evos. But would you accept that as a Mustang? I don't know. What will you accept? Would it be an electric sport utility vehicle? Are you going to call it a Mustang? Can we inspire that? Is that what's going to happen to us? No matter what happens to us, here's what happens right now. You, because of your love, why you're sitting here tonight, when you could be home watching 90 Day Fiancé, you're here talking Mustang, we connect with everybody. Why? Because we too appreciate the heritage that we have. We have an enthusiast section on FordPerformance.com. That's my real job, like on Wednesday and Thursday, to do that. And those stories are about you. I get them by talking to you. And on Thursdays, tonight, you'll get fast news from Ford Performance when you sign up for our free email. It tells you everything that's going on, all this crazy stuff I just talked about. And our new program, Club Connect. We have over 600 Ford clubs. Every Ford has a club. The Pinto Club has 5,900 members. So 3 million pinups. Every Ford's got it. So why do we connect? Because Mustang's journey is something all of America is interested in. This is what Ford Motor Company does right now for our enthusiasts. We have a triple way of connecting. We have a digital outreach and the info center. No car company, not Toyota, not BMW, nobody does this. The reason I'm talking here tonight, we do outreach. The reason we have all these digital assets. So you can call 1-800-FORD-788. You can't say SVT anymore. And if you want to know what kind of part you got to put on your Mustang, what about an exhaust system? My daughter wants to buy a Camaro. Can you talk her down? We can do that. We have you can connect, you can send me an email at clubup@ford.com. We connect with our customers. Why? Because Mustang has always been that product. This is what we do at Ford. It's a family company. My boss up until about 18 months ago was Henry Ford III. I worked for him, Etzel's son. I worked for Ford. If you worked at General Motors, would you work for a General? It's still that company. You know? It's still the company that did all these things. It won World War II. We were the arsenal of democracy. We won World War II by building our way out of it. We built the middle class. The $5 a day wage changed the way the middle class would. Without that, we wouldn't have a middle class. It would be the haves and have-nots. This is the car company that we're dealing with. So I just ask you, implore you to go online and go and connect with the company because things are happening at Ford so fast. The connectivity part, the electrification part, everything that's happening in the auto industry is going to happen in your neck of the woods. And it's all going to be connected with you, the enthusiast. Ford wants to make sure we bring you along for the ride. Life is not fun as a passenger. So if you don't have a club, go to FordPerformanceClubConnect.com and find one. Get in a car club. It's a riot. The cars will come and go, but the friends you make, they're going to last a lifetime. And that always happens. You can follow us online, you can call us. You know, I often say if you don't have heritage, Ford has all this heritage. If you don't have it, what do you have? You got to get dancing hamsters. You got to do this. You don't have Carol, Shelby, Parnelli, Joe. You don't know that. So you get dancing hamsters. Can you call the dancing hamster in South Korea? No. Hello, this is Bob. No. You can call us. Call Steve on the info center. He's got a 600 horsepower Falcon. They're all crazy like you. But that's why we have a unique story, and that's why Mustang is like no other product that came in America in these last 100 years, or no other product that's going to come down the road in 100 years, no matter what you might hear about some Silicon Valley. If electric cars were invented in Detroit, they were going up and down Woodward Avenue in 1910. The same issues that came with them back in 1910 are the same ones we have today. Range anxiety, battery technology. So if it's going to be invented, if new propulsion is going to happen, it's going to happen here, and I'm here to tell you, it's going to happen at Ford. So I hope you enjoyed the little walk through history lane on the Mustang. If you have any questions that you have in your mind about the Mustang, about history, about something about what's happening with Mustang, about why we do performance, anything that I've covered tonight, I'd be happy to answer.
I have a 92 Mustang GT, red only, convertible.
That is probably your pride and joy.
Oh, yes.
When you take it out and you go to the gas station and it's a convertible,
Yeah.
put the top down here while you're filling up, and people are going to go around the car and go like this. Is this your Mustang? What's that, a 92? They're going to talk to you like that. If you have a Nissan Altima, no one will say anything to you at the gas station. They don't care.
My question is this. Who chose to not put the pony on the front? I had to spend $35 for a Ford-approved decal to go over that ugly blue oval.
Bless you.
I'm sorry it's ugly blue to me. The pony is supposed to be there.
I love that. See, this is why you write letters. The marketing department, I had been in those meetings, and I've been kicked out of meetings. And I can tell you that they got to a point where they thought, if you guy now don't know that this is a Mustang, let's take Mustang off of it. They thought that would be cooler than putting the pony on. I can't buy into everything that I hear in the marketing office, and sometimes it's better that you just call in sick, because otherwise you get uninvited. But that was a marketing decision. You notice we didn't stick with it.
Yeah, but it was there for a while.
Yeah.
And the only way to change it, other than get that $35 label, was to get the Cobra front end.
And now you see why the Mustang is the most customized car in the world. We gave it an opportunity for the aftermarket.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Were you the California model?
Yes.
What made that difference? What, I didn't quite capture what.
Okay, so
why there's a California one?
Okay, so Ford always had regional differences. People in certain regions were proud of their whatever they did in that area. And Ford would want to kind of celebrate that. Well, in the California people, the car was built out there in San Jose, and well, actually near San Jose, And they wanted to take some pride point in that, and Carroll Shelby, when he first tooled up for his Shelby cars, had spoilers and lights and things left over. And Ford said, why don't we just put these on a car and just call it a California special, make it look like, because Shelby plants in California, make a special edition, dress it up. It had a side scoop, it had the Shelby taillights, ducktail spoiler, just get a little dress here, make it a special model that you had to custom order. At first it was only available in that region, but then they said, let's make it national. And you know what? It was popular. People loved it. And it became the California special. Then it went away. And then people said, why don't we come back? Then everybody did a special. We had the Twister special in Kansas City. We had the Bluebonnet special in Texas. And everybody had a special.
High country special.
High Country special in Denver. The Ski Country special. Detroit has its own special. Did you know we had a Woodward Dream Cruise edition? Yeah, we had a Woodward. Every Ford dealer in Detroit got one, and it was an SN95. I think we had SVO side pipes on it. It was white with blue stripes. You can get them in coupe or convertible, and they sold out. You can rarely see them.
So it's all the body stuff, but the
It's body
inside-
stuff.
but the
It's a
inside,
Mustang.
everything is the
It's a
same.
regular Mustang, it's just dolled up.
Okay.
Just dolled up. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
The Steve McQueen movie car, was that car especially built just for the movie, for the suspension and so forth?
There were three McQueen cars, three movie cars. The ones that was used in the jump scenes was actually broken in half. They broke the car. And that car was eventually, when the movie was over, it was unrepairable. So what they did is they junked it, and it was found in a junkyard in Mexico. And just recently, the people went down there, and all they could save out of the car was the floor pans. And they put it into a new body and said, oh, this is the jump car. And we verified the VIN number of that being the jump car. We know it was junked. And maybe he did cut the real floor pans out because those were bent. Everything else was bent out. The second car was just for beauty shots and stills. That car was used by the studio for a while. And that was the car that they wanted to go blow one up. And actually, that the whole blow up scene was a big fake, by the way. It was actually, if you look real close, that really didn't happen the way it looks. Nowadays, we have so much better computer animation, but back then, they said, well, that car, let's at least say the best one. What's the best one? The best one was the one that actually hit the Dodge Charger and has a dent in the quarter panel. And that's how Kevin, Marty, and I were able to tell it was a real car. They x-rayed the side of that car because the studio, when it was all done, the movie was over, the studio filled it with Bondo, spray painted it green, and put it for sale in Car and Driver, like for $2,500.
Oh, my.
And a guy bought it, and then when Steve McQueen went back to the studio, hey, did you have that Mustang that I had in the movie? Yeah. Well, we sold it. Where? So they gave him the guy's number. He called me, hey, you want to sell the car? And he said, no, I don't want to sell the car. He goes, is this really Steve McQueen? He goes, yeah, don't try to rip me off. Just kind of. He wanted that car back. But the modifications that we were able to see when we saw the car, they welded small pins along the bottom of the floorboards underneath so they could slide the cameras into, so they actually sat on a saddle that slid into two channels that were welded to the bottom of the car so you could actually have a camera in Steve McQueen's face. Head on both sides, holes were cut behind the back seats. They wanted to bring sound in to hear the tires. Problem is it also brought smoke in, and the seat belts were banging around back there with the microphones, and they had to tape them down. They still, one of the seat belts still has gaff tape holding it down because it's a big mess trying to make the sound. They beefed up the suspension a little bit. A lot of people said, oh, McQueen put a 350 Chevy in that. He didn't. He did all of his own driving. That car was just slightly modified for that. But the reason why it looks like it was beat up is because it took three cars. And that was the only one that survived. It was the only one. Yes?
Oh, two things. One is tomorrow night they have the Conference Demo dance at 5 Mile in Sheldon, M14 in Sheldon. And they're having Battle of the Brands, and our Mustang Club, which there's several Mustang clubs like you mentioned, is trying to get Ford to be Porsche. So if you have a pretty Mustang, clean it up tonight, give it a bath.
Convertible.
Give it a bath, and show up at 6 o'clock tomorrow.
Well, I'll tell you, that's because this is a very busy weekend, and I know Sunday I was Main Street Memories up in Port Huron, and tonight you missed seeing Wayne Carini and Dylan Larkin, who are over at the Stahl Museum, and I feel honored that you came to watch this history because I would have been a Detroit Red Wing, and I could have played hockey except for one thing they call talent. Other than that, I wouldn't be as good as Isaac. But yeah, and this is why Club Connect's so important. This is why Ford has this outreach. we celebrate our cars. When you drive around and see a Ford dealer or a parking lot with all these Mustangs, you go, what's going on there? It's Sunday, it's hot. Why are these people parking in a parking lot around a bunch of Mustangs? That doesn't happen with all these other. Where does the Toyota Camry hold its club meeting? Where the other appliances hang out at Home Depot? I don't know. I mean, if you like an appliance, that's fine. They make great appliances. They get you back and forth. But Mustangs,
Starbucks.
Mustang's a totally different beast. And that, because we have all of you that own one have an emotional connection with your car. And here's why I know. Because when you go home tonight, and you drive your Prius or whatever, please God don't tell me you have one. But thanks for saving the world. When you go home in whatever car you have, you go into the house, you pull in the garage one, and you go out and close the door. That's what you do when you have a car. But when you have a Mustang tonight, and you're driving home, and you get into your garage, what are you going to do? You're going to get out of the car, you're going to walk about 4 steps, and you're going to stop. And you're going to turn around and you're going to go, good night, Betsy. Am I right? Some of you named your cars, don't lie, I know. We have an emotional attachment, it's a piece of metal, but we have this attachment to it because we personally, go to a Mustang show and find 2 identical Mustangs. This is so hard to do.
I have a question about this.
Yeah.
What about, how does Ford work with, like, the Hennessy's, the Salines, the Roushes, like you're talking about all these special cars, and they're still doing that too, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, and the cool thing, people say, why would you support Roush? He's selling Mustangs too. You're not buying your Shelby. Why would you support Saline or support Hennessy or any of those tuners, Steeda? Because every one of those guys, guess what they have to do before they make their car? They have to buy a Mustang. And if our Mustang did not get you to buy it, but their conversion did, that's an extra sale. We actually have more engineering help with SEMA and aftermarket suppliers with Mustang. We want to help them make parts that we don't make. We can't do it. We've got the laws, the federal laws. We have to put things, rear seat, rear view cameras. Now they want us to put in monitors in case you forget your baby was in the back seat. If you forget your baby's in the back seat, please don't have any more kids. Really, you need a button to remind you that metal car that hit you in the back of the head was thrown from your 2-year-old? You forgot that? No, so we work very closely with it. It really behooves us to sell more Mustang. And we don't have any problem with it. We really don't. In fact, right now, if you wanted a Lightning pickup, you'd have to go to an aftermarket. We don't sell it. Yes?
On your slide with the 74 to 78s,
Yeah.
Barrett faucet sitting on the Cobra. The 76, people writing in forced Ford to put a V8 in that.
That's correct.
I mean, I had one with a 4-speed.
The 74, when it came out, you could get a 4-cylinder, 2.3 liter, which was shared with the Pinto. People call it the Pinto Stang. If anybody calls it a Pinto Stang, that just means they're stupid. There is nothing on a Mustang 2 that will fit and bolt onto a Pinto. The door panels, the glass, the seat, nothing exchanges.
Except the 2.3
The 2.3 liter, some of the brake parts.
Yeah.
There is more Falcon in an original Mustang than there is a Pinto in a Mustang 2. But people, it's an urban legend that it's a Pinto. The other thing is, that you guys, again, you said, man, we gotta have the 8. Now, we had a nice 6-cylinder, had it in the Mach 1. We had a Mach 1 all 5 of those years. But it wasn't enough. And even though that V8 came out and it only had 140 horsepower, the Corvette 350 had 155 horsepower. I mean, it wasn't the car, it was the era. Okay, so dollar for dollar, pound for pound, that car was as fast as anything you could buy. And that's the point. Don't take Mustang out of context. In the context of its time, that was a phenomenal car. And people that don't embrace it and don't love it, they're just not well read, or they're just snobs. I would hang around with them. They probably have roll chains and drive a Corvette.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I love my Corvettes. Yeah, so that's another question?
Yeah, well, let's testimony, because you know how you met Jenny, right? So my husband, I bought mine like 6 years ago. I got the Gen 4, the 14, and it was my time. And my husband was so jealous, and he's driving all the way out to Chelsea, and on 84 every day. Well, let me take it out. I said, no, you're not getting stone chips out of this.
He's your husband.
And bugs and all that stuff. No, seriously. And so 3 years ago, he bought his own, and he drives it out to Fiat Chrysler, and he parks it out there all the time.
Well,
And he got a stone chip.
listen, I understand, you know, when I got my Mustang, I thought I would keep it forever, and then the boys came along, and then hockey, coaching hockey, and I needed a Windstar. When you're working for, if you work at Auto Week and you drive a Windstar, I had it with Nixon at the time. I don't want anybody to see me driving a Windstar. You know? But it's a life cycle thing, it really is. And then maybe you get to that point when you had to have kids and then you've sold it, and how many stories you hear about the guy selling his Mustang and wish he had it back?
Oh, absolutely.
Or now that the kids are out of the house, if you're lucky enough, because, you know, some millennials are still in the house, well into their 30s, they're living in your basement. So how do you go back to that? Well, that's why we're selling them now. That's what nostalgia is. And the cars today are so great. It's so tough to, if you have a 66 and a 2016, you're going to take the 2016 to the show because it's air conditioned, it starts up, doesn't have points or condenser, the tires aren't flat, the battery's not dead. A lot easier. But the problem, folks, is this. Kids love the Mustang. And when they go to a show, they don't want to see all brand new cars. They can see that at the Ford dealer, right? So if you have a classic Mustang, keep it, work on it, bring it out. If it's a 92 or if it's an 02, I mean, it doesn't matter. We got to keep those, because that whole, when you close your eyes and you see a Mustang, you see all those 50 years. You don't see just this year or the first year. And that's what makes this car so great. The only other car that really, when you think about a car that has that kind of shape, maybe the Volkswagen Beetle, and that's about it. But as far as an American car, nothing like it. Yes, sir.
Well, my wife thinks I'm sort of crazy. I had an 06 Mustang GT convertible, black, and I made 2 mistakes with it, meaning it's been out in the rain. It doesn't come out of the garage if I can't have it top down.
I understand, and here's what happens when you're an enthusiast. You're going to treat your car better than you treat your kids. Somebody came up to me and said, hey, you know, I bought myself one of those Hyundai Velosters. That's their Mustang. Did you see that? I said, because the resale value of that car is pretty high. It's probably higher than a Mustang. I said, resale value? Who cares about resale value in a Mustang? When you buy a Mustang, it's which kid gets it when you're dead. You don't sell it. I'm selling it. Did you ever see somebody sell their Mustang? Like, oh, it's just selling your dog. Who does that? Who does that? That car is part of your family now. And like I said, it's like, if that was your first one, you put it in the garage, you put a tarp over it.
Wasn't my first one.
Well, even if any of them are hard to get rid of. I mean, even if my son got his first Mustang, it's a 2004 40th anniversary 6-cylinder. Why? He couldn't afford a GT. The insurance was more than the car payment. Right? So he gets the 6-cylinder. Well, now, he's been working a little bit. Now he's thinking, well, thank God that no-fault law passed. It doesn't make any difference, Dad. No, I said, no. Maybe you want the GT now. What are you going to do with your 6-cylinder? He goes, I can't sell it. I said, it needs a diaper. It needs all this work. I said, Jeremy, sell it. He said, Dad, that was my first Mustang. Well, what are you going to do? I'll put it in the garage. I'll put a tarp over it. I'll save it for my kid. You don't have kids. You got a cat. See what I'm saying? So this is what this car has done. And you can't talk about other cars like this because there are no other cars like that. And I understand. I totally get it. And that's why I'm going to offer you some advice. The only reason I'm asking you to join a club is because you can buy a Mustang, and if you have a new one or a used one, an old one, and you make one stupid decision, wrong bump shop, wrong mechanic, got the wrong part, one decision could cost you thousands of dollars. A bad paint job is a couple of $1,000. It could be $10,000. The wrong piece to put on that car. The guys who have the cars have done everything. So that when you join the club, you got friends that you have an unlimited amount of knowledge about these cars. One little bit of advice you can get from the club for your $40 membership will pay for itself over and over and over. Not to mention, I know how you gals are too. You probably, when you go out, you don't want to just drive the top down by yourself and, you know, hey, how you doing? You don't want to do that by yourself. You like going out with maybe the Culvers or a Cruisin', or maybe you go to the Big Boy or not Big Boys anymore. Maybe you just want to be with people. It's more fun to share your experience with people with a like-minded love of Mustang. And that's why getting in the club is the things they do, the cruises, the meetups, the dinners, they're just a blast. And be part of that community. Because really, I fear for our children. Because they don't they don't get out of the house to go to the store, they order it on Amazon. They wonder why there's 50 billion trucks on the road. I'll save my planet because I didn't go to the store. No, you just put 80,000 trucks on the road. And then they go, can I just text? Can I do a live chat instead of talking to people? There's no social interaction. I fear for them. They don't want to talk to anyone because they're so isolated. And I fear part of being in the club is learning all the crazy people that you have in that club and the characters. There's characters in every club, just like it's like high school. It's like high school. So join it. It'll be fun. It's part of our hobby, and I'm honored that Ford has chosen me to go out and engage with this community because this is the greatest job in the world to be with you. And yes, sir.
Where is your next talk going to be at? What location?
Okay, so next weekend I'm going down to the 80th anniversary of Mercury. Mercury is one of my favorite brands. When I was at Auto Week, I used to write about it. My late brother was a huge Mercury fan, was actually in the International Mercury Club. And so I'm going to learn a little history of Mercury in Dayton, Ohio. And then in 2 weeks after that, I'm going to Cleveland, to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I'm going to talk about the Thunderbird, another great car that Ford had. And by the way, one of Lee Iacocca's favorites. There's a lot of Thunderbird in some Mustangs. The reason why your early Mustang 2s had the formal roofline, he loved the formal roofline. Lee loved T-Birds. And that's why I loved them too. When I was a little kid, I know a lot of you guys don't remember there's something called the Rotunda. But tiny little kid, my dad took me and my brother who was, at that time, my brother and I didn't get along that well, but he said, I stood there and I looked at the Rotunda and I saw flying cars between the City of Tomorrow at the Rotunda. And I remember that? And my brother came up to me and punched me in the back. He said, Dad said we gotta go. And I said, look, Jerry, flying cars in the year 2000. He said, if you look real close, it's fishing line. Spoil it for everybody. But the year 2000 came and I hope we probably see at the auto show we have flying drone cars. I'll tell you, give me the Mustang on a 2-lane road with a 4-speed transmission and open exhaust with a top down, I'm good to go. If you just get the rest of the people off the road for me, thank you. That's about all the time we have. Can we get one more question?
Oh, yeah, you've
Okay,
got lots of time for
Okay,
questions.
here's what I need you to know.
You told me you'd fill an hour and a half full of questions.
Here's what I need you to
so-
know. You need to know something. Mustang, unlike other cars, think about some cars that you may have really liked and then they changed significantly. They didn't have the interaction with you. The company may have known you and because you were a customer, but then they have that marketing guy who has an all-new idea, and he's going to make it, I got a better idea. Well, is it a better idea if they don't have your input? Now here's here's the divorce. Ford, at one time, they said, Henry, how did you come up with this car thing? I take a buggy and you got rid of the horse. How did you do that? Did you ask people what they want? And he said, if I would have asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. So you have to innovate. You have to come up with something new and fresh. Iacocca and Hal Sperlich, who's the real father of the Mustang. Hal Sperlich is still around, a great guy. He's a genius. He created the front-wheel drive subcompact. We call it the Fiesta. He created the pony car. He also created the minivan. He showed it to Mr. Ford. And when he was at Ford, and Mr. Ford said, get that ugly, tall station wagon out of here. No one would ever buy it. So they did push it aside. They could never get it built. And when they both were fired and went over to Chrysler, they had the platform with the K car. And they built it again, created a segment. Who, ladies and gentlemen, has created car segments? What person alive has made 3 segments? Hal Sperlich. So that's the kind of talent and innovation you have. My goal for Ford, here's what Hal said. When I showed you the future, here's what Hal said. Ready for the next Mustang? From the guy who made the first one, he said, the problem with the new Mustang, John, it's too big, it's too heavy, and it's too expensive. The reason young people can't afford it, it's a $40,000 car. He said, if you want to make Mustang great, if you want to go back to its roots, take a car of the size of the Ford Focus, give it a body like the oh my God body. Now I'm not saying the Ford GT, which looks like a rocket. But a body when it goes, you go, what is that? That's the new Mustang. Oh my God, did you see that? It's the, oh my God car. Like we did in 1964. He said, oh, by the way, you can give it a back seat, and maybe if you can't get something in it, you can give it a hatchback. Like the Fox Party had, the Mustang 2 had. He said, and you price it at $25,000, $23,000. Because you have EcoBoost. When you have 300 horsepower of a turbo 4, you don't need 700 horsepower because the car doesn't weigh 5,000 pounds. He said you can sell, but for those people who want it, offer that 700 horsepower Monster. Make the Monster as well. But the base car has to be something that, oh my God, I want. He said to me, millennials who don't really like cars, right? Yes, they do. Mommy took them to soccer practice. Mommy took them to the dentist. Now they call their friends, hey, you want to take me down to the ball game? Nobody's driving. But I fear for that poor soul that didn't experience driving on a Sunday afternoon. Just go where you want to go and when you want to go. You're not waiting for Larry to show up in some Toyota, pick you up in 5 minutes on your cell phone. What did they say to you? Think back. The two things that you learned. Do not go away with strangers and do not meet anybody on the internet by yourself. What was it? When you call an Uber, you're driving away with a stranger and you met him on the internet alone. You're disobeying your mother. Buy a Mustang. Drive when you want to go. I'm not waiting for Larry or whoever, or Sally. The difference is that Hal is probably right. What you can't change is human nature. And why we have this love affair after 55 years, it was based on human nature. Mustang had always brought you in. You always wrote Ford Motor Company. The reason I wanted to create Club Connect, I wanted to give you an avenue. If Ford turns left and you want them to go right, you can email them. People don't write anymore. I have a young man that works for me at FordPerformance.com. I told him to go out and start writing some stories. I couldn't find for the longest time a young man who could write. Some guys really knew about cars, couldn't write, or couldn't shoot a picture. Some guys are really good at shooting pictures and writing, don't know anything about cars. Getting them together was tough. So he finally came to me and said, Mr. Clor, I wrote that story, but my friends read it, and they said it was like too long. I said it was 600 words. I wrote a 4,000 word essay on the history of the Cobra jet. My column in Mustang Times is 4,000 words. You're saying your 600 word story is, yeah, they said it was too long. I said, you guys had the attention span of a flea.
144
I said, I thought to myself, this is why on Ford Performance we have what we call quick look. You're going to a show, he'll be up in Port Huron, he's not going to write a story. He's going to walk around with his camera and take pictures of every Ford and Mustang you can find. And then you're going to go on Ford Performance and you're going to go through those photos. Oh, look at that, look at that, oh, what? You're done. Because that's the way we consume information now, unfortunately. The written word, this place is hallowed ground. It's a library. The two swear words you give to a millennial is library and museum. So that's why everything's on your iPhone, and you slide and you touch and you read. You watch all the videos on YouTube. You can't write, don't write out how to fix my car, put a video on. Everything's going to be a video. We're going to consume differently because of the smartphones, which, if you're so smart with a smartphone, how come you can't remember your husband's phone number? Oh, just push this button. What's the number? I don't know. This is a button, that's all I know. You're actually dumber because of the smartphone. But the idea is, if we're going to connect, we can use technology. The clubs are going to Facebook, which is great for a social meeting. It's a terrible place to run a business. Mr. Zuckerberg would be happy to have you sit there. But if you're not online, you don't exist. So that's why Ford created Club Connect. We help clubs get their own websites. We help them develop their club. Why? Because you meet people. You actually talk to people.
What's your favorite Mustang, John?
Well, I will tell you this, that everybody knows me for the Mustang 2, because my first new Mustang was a Mustang 2. My brother and I mean, we tore through that 67 Fastback that I met Jenny in, was totaled. We had a notchback, a Fox body notchback. We had a Mustang, my brother had a Mustang 2 Fastback 6-cylinder. But by that time, my goal was to get a Mach 1, a 1969 Mach 1. I fell in love with it. It was red, it had stripes, it had a shaker hood, louvers, spoiler, the Magnum 500s. What's not to like about a red 69 Mach 1? Little scoop in the
We all fell in love with that.
okay, so I'm in love with it, right? I'm going to Wayne State University and working at a baker's shoes Eastland, selling you ladies your shoes. $1.65 an hour, or commission. You gotta sell a lot of shoes to get commission. I want that freaking Mustang. So I saved and scrimped and saved. I still paid my tuition at Wayne and my books, but I wanted that car. But I told you, what did I tell you when we started tonight? That my brother was a Woodward street racer and my dad was a cop. So my dad was certain I would not be turning out like my brother. So when I saved $2,000 in cash. You know, that Mustang was like $3,400. It was expensive, almost $4,000 from ours. So I thought to myself, it's going out, the 70s are coming in. I saw it at Stark Hickey East, which doesn't exist in East Point, it was East Detroit then. And I said, I gotta do it. So I went to my dad, I said, Dad, I want you to go with me. I want to show you something, I need your help. He goes, what's wrong, son? Hey, Dad, I need your help. Can we take a drive? What's wrong, son? You know, he's like, Dad, I have to talk to you, it's something really serious. Okay, so we get in the car, we drive to East Point, we get out of Stark Hickey East. There in the showroom is that red 69, oh, it was a 70, they already moved it out. I lost the scoop. So I walked in and I said, Dad, I reached in my pocket, I had $2,000 in $100 bills. I said, Dad, I got 3/4 of this car. And all I need you to do is to co-sign for me, to loan me the money to buy this car, and my life will change. This is all I've ever wanted. I'm a good student. I didn't get in trouble like Jerry. I didn't wreck your garage. I didn't blow up your car. I didn't do any of that, Dad, please. Before you say no. And he looked at me, you know what happened? What do you think happened?
No way.
I got the cop face. The same cop face you get when you're pulled over for speeding, and you've all been pulled over for speeding. He gave me the cop face, and I'm looking at it, and I go, oh, cop face, I'm in trouble. So he said, you want that car? Yeah. Why? Why do you want that car? Well, what are you going to say? What could I say?
Beautiful.
So I didn't expect the question. So I said the first two things that came in my head. Well, it's red, and it's got 4-speed, and that's what I want, Dad. No, come on, Dad, $2,000, come on, it's not that much more. He takes that $2,000, sit down, he walks in the salesman office, and goes, oh my God. Is it being a good student? Is it working hard that your dad will appreciate? What is it that made him take that money? And when he came out, he said, all right, let's go. I looked at it. He goes, no, this car's out back. No, it's right here. He bought me a red 4-speed Pinto. Paid for, $2,000. 19 something out the door. He said, don't worry about the tax, I got it. Dad, that was it. He said you wanted a red 4-speed. So this is a much better car for going to college. So, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot ever hurt a Ford enthusiast. So what I did, about 6 months after that, I met through the club a Ford engineer. He said, oh, you got one of the new panels, a 2-liter German engine. Very nice motor. That makes 100 horsepower. I go, really? He goes, how do you know what panels? Do you have one? He goes, no. I race Formula 2000. It's the same motor in my open wheel race car. I make it like 200. He goes, I'm getting a new motor. Do you want to buy my old one? My eyes. 200 horsepower in a car that weighs barely 2,000 pounds? Yeah! So guess what I did? Man, did I sell you ladies those shoes. You had shoes you didn't even need. I sold you boots and a purse. So I got the money and bought this Formula 2000 race motor. And my brother-in-law, who later was known to be a little crazy himself, he had a 32 5-window Ford coupe with a Hemi in it. That's how nuts he was. I said, Pete, I want to swap this 2-liter race motor into my car. And he goes, the car's a new car. And here's the worst part. He can't tell Dad. And he's dating my sister. He goes, and he's a great mechanic. I go, I know you could do this. What are you doing in the afternoon? I go, man, I don't know, John. I go, no, you got to do it. We did it. We swapped that motor into my Pinto. And then I went out and bought wheels and tires. You couldn't get anything bigger than the Era 60 13s. I put a fiberglass hood scoop on it. I ran a Detroit Dragway. That was a class winner. The car would run low 15s, high 14s if I could ever get it to hook up. It'd smoke all the way through first and second. And then when I started tuning those 4 side draft Delorto carburetors, it made even more power until I kept blowing the transmissions out. Stripping the teeth off first gear, running up to a junkyard, buying another one. The guy, after a couple weekends, would say, "You're back for another transmission. Got to get another pintle in here," you know. And then finally I came home and I was going to the drag strip. I said to Jenny, "We're going to go racing." She goes, "Don't come home if you break it." If you don't break it, you ain't racing. So that night I went out, ladies and gentlemen. I had a Dodge Valiant inline 6 that I was up against, and he was winning his class. I said, "I'm going to beat this Dodge. I'm taking the trophy home." Well, I didn't red light. I was on my game that night. I ran so hard. When I banged second, I blew that tranny. I blew it to smithereens. And my buddy who had a Mustang said, "I'll tow you home." We had a 10-foot chain. By the time I got back home, my front rotors were glowing. It's like they're lights. And Jenny said, realized that I broke it. She said to me, "Why don't you just buy a car with a V8? Why don't you just do that?" I said, "Yeah, you're right, honey." So what did we do? We took that motor out of the pinto, we put a V8 in it. And a 289 for a while, then we bought a pinto wagon, we put a 302 in the wagon. Here's the problem. When we put the 302 in it, we put ladder bars on it, we drove to the drag strip, it pulled the tires off the ground, and then it kind of twisted, and the front windshield popped out. Well, then Johnny says to me, "John, don't they make them with V8s?" So I went to the Ford dealer, and what was there? It was 1976. It was 1977, the Cobra 2. I said, I could get a 302 Cobra 2, and everything is wrong with that 302. A 5-liter is a 5-liter. And I have a Ford racing catalog. I can make serious horsepower out of that car. So, Jenny, can I buy a Cobra? You know, you worked hard. I sell all this junk. We have all these blown parts, and we'll buy it. She orders the Cobra for me, and then bad things happen. The EPA changed the fuel economy standards. The 77 models got delayed, and then it was winter before they made them, and then he told me, "You have to take a 78. I said, "Is it still a Cobra too?" "Yes, I'll take it." The car came in, and it was those billboard striped cars that said Cobra on the door instead of the Shelby stripe. I said, "What's this?" They go, "Well, that's the Cobra." I go, "No, mine's got Shelby stripes." "No, this is a new one." I said, "What is this? Who drew this? Some guy that runs a disco?" So I drove it home. The first day I had that car, I drove down Heinz Drive, had the T-tops out, fog hat laying on the H-jack. I stopped there at a stop sign, and some kid with a knapsack on is walking past me. He's looking at my car. And he stops. He looks at the door. He says, "Hey, mister, is that a Cobra?" The letters were this big.
It's that.
Nothing worse than a smart aleck kid. So yeah, they make 3M stripe remover. But I had that Cobra, I thought, forever until somehow Jenny got pregnant. Not sure how that happened. I was building a Roush race motor for it. I was getting it all ready to go, and then my dad came to me and said, "Son, aren't you a little old to be irresponsible? You're going to be a father now. You need a bassinet, a crib, a stroller, playing with a hot rod car. Is that what you want to do? You need all that stuff. I think you should sell that." So I guess I got guilted into it. Jenny, she said, "Hey, my little brother would like it. Keep it in the family. And who knows, maybe we'll buy it back off him when the kids are grown up." So we did sell it to Jenny's brother. Unfortunately, Jenny's brother was a child diabetic. He passed away when he was 40. He smashed the living hell out of that Cobra. And after, his widow actually called us, and after the car was stored in a barn, it was a cold water issue. We found the car about 15 years ago, and I went to, I said I should go buy it. So ladies and gentlemen, I bought my first Mustang. I bought it back, and I sent it to, it's been at 3 different restorers. I've been ripped off 3 different times, in 3 different states, by 3 different people, until I finally found someone I trust. Someday, I will have the first new Mustang I ever owned back in my garage. That's my Mustang story. My favorite is still the 69 model. Okay, any other questions? Okay, I think we had a good time tonight.